topic du jour for our quarterly financial wellness webinar is DIY financial planning. Not all of you are comfortable working with a financial advisor, or maybe you don't think that you're a financial advisor's target right now, so to speak. And what I mean by that is not everybody is comfortable meeting with somebody, especially someone like myself who maybe you've never met before. I recognize some names on here. I don't recognize everybody that's going to be on this call today. But ultimately, we would love for people to be a little bit familiar with their own financial planning needs and maybe identifying some gaps. And then that's where someone like ourselves can help. For many of the people on this call, we are your 401k financial advisor. And because of that, we want to be holistic planners for you all, because the solution for everything is not put more money in the 401k. It's not diversify to this particular mutual fund in your retirement plan. It's more of an iterative act of saying, hey, here are some gaps, again, in your financial plan. Maybe the 401k is one of them. Maybe it's a solution. But for most people, it's one of the vehicles, it's one of the tools that we can access to improve ourselves. But the actual financial plan that you need to work on might be completely outside of the 401k. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. So on your screen, what you're seeing is our website. So our website, if you've never been there before, I will put this in the chat as well, is correctcap.com. So correctcap.com will lead you here. On this website, in the upper right, you'll notice a button that says free planning. And that's the area that we're going to today. Word of caution. We are going to be changing the terminology on that button. So it won't always say free planning, but just know that the button in the upper right is the tool that we are going to be referring to today. When you click on this link, I'm actually going to drag over another browser window. It's going to bring you to a place called Savology. It's going to bring you to, let me back up, a tool called Savology that our organization participates with. So Savology is the engine, the tool that we link up with to be able to describe to people, what does your financial plan actually look like for you? So through Savology and using their system, we can better prepare folks for the eventual journey of going through a financial plan. Or if you're thinking, I don't want to do this with Correct Capital at all, that's perfectly fine. You could just keep us at an arm's length, use the tool. It is available to everybody that would like to use it. Now, Savology, if we advance through here, I'm actually going to create a brand new plan here. Let me do that. We're going to call it Bo Peep. It's going to bring you to a survey. It's going to look like this. So you have to register with an email and a password. So you'll create your own login for this information. So the login credential, we might know your email address, but we don't know your password. So none of that information is shared with us. But it will bring you to a tool, and it's going to look exactly like you see on the page. Can everybody see that? Okay, it says, what is your first name? You can type in the chat if that's easier for you.
Yeah, we see it.
All right, just making sure. Thank you. So we have Bo. Bo is going to be our avatar individual, but again, this is going to be an interactive event. So if you do not have access to your chat box, you might want to pop that up real quick because I will be asking questions. There are a number of questions in here, and this whole program to get you set up with your financial plan will probably take between 10 and 15 minutes, depending on how quick you can type your fingers in. So for example, I need to know what Bo's age is. So what is the age of Bo? If you wouldn't mind maybe typing in the chat what you think her age should be. 50, says Kim. Bob says 38. Someone else says 50, 45. Let's use some kind of average of that. Let's go with 46. Go somewhere relatively in the middle of that, or maybe weighted average. So I'm going to assume the gender is female, just to move on past this. And I'm going to use our local zip code, which is 63105 for our office. Now, we're going to, let's assume that Bo is married. And let's just assume a very similar age. So let's say 45. Yeah, that's good. Now, does Bo and her spouse have children? And if so, how many? Feel free to put in the chat how many we think we should have. 3, says Kim. 0, 2, 3, 2.5. I don't know if I can split them in half. Okay, 3. Okay, let's do 2. Let's do 2. And let's assume, let's assume they're a little bit older. Well, older, that's all relative, right? Let's assume they're still in the household, just for complexity's sake. So let's say 13 and 15, all right? So if we think about their ages, that probably lines up. That probably makes a little bit of sense. So just like that, we've completed the first part of the profile. Your personal profile is complete. Because I use our area, or our zip code, this is a Missouri zip code, and so it's kind of telling you a little bit about what the national average for state and local tax rates are. State and local taxes in Missouri average 11.25, which actually ranks 16th best in the nation. So pretty cool for us here in Missouri, I guess. Now, what is your expected annual income? So for simplicity's sake, I'm going to take care of this part. I'm going to say that Bo makes $70,000 and her spouse makes 60. Just put in numbers. I haven't tested this. I don't know what's going to come out of this. So we're working on this together. For how much does your household save monthly? So this is a little bit tricky, especially if you've got a 401k. You're going to have to pull out a pay stub maybe, or maybe mentally think, hey, I'm contributing 6%. I make this amount of money, so that means I'm contributing blank amount of dollars towards my retirement every time that I'm paid or every month. So again, for simplicity's sake, let's assume that they're doing some monthly savings into their respective 401k plans through work. Let's say the total is maybe $400 a month between the two. And let's say monthly savings into other accounts, let's say that they contribute $100 into savings. So they have, maybe they have $2 amounts going to two different bank accounts, one to their checking, one to savings. The checking is where they're paying their bills from. The savings account is their rainy day fund, so to speak. So they're contributing $500 a month. So if we were to do that basic math, we multiply 500 a month times 12, they're saving $6,000 a year into two different types of accounts. So again, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to choose that they have 401k plans through work. You have all these other options here, including pensions. So for someone like myself, who has a spouse who's a teacher here in Missouri, it's important that I make sure that, hey, there is some kind of annuity pension for my wife in this case. I'm going to omit it just for simplicity's sake for this case. And we're going to go and click next. Now, enter the estimated balances for each of your retirement accounts. So this is an aggregation. So this is a total balance between the two. So you might need to poke your spouse and say, hey, can you pull up your 401k app real quick? And let me know how much money you have in there so you can add it all together. Let's say, considering their ages, they've accumulated $200,000 in their 401k plans between the two of them. Now, the kinds of accounts that we were talking about, we're going to say they have checking. We're also going to assume that they have some kind of savings accounts. Let's also assume, because they're a relatively healthy family, they have an HSA or health savings account. Maybe they want a low deductible plan and they want to tuck some money aside for another day. So enter the estimated balances of each of your accounts. Again, this is just saying, okay, well, I'm going to spend money in my checking account, so it's not always going to be at the high water mark. It might drop. So let's assume maybe it's about $2,000 on average in checking, let's say in savings, $5,000. And because they do have some health concerns occasionally through the year where they dip into their HSA, let's assume that they have about $3,000 there. So all told, between these resources, they have about $10,000. Okay, so here's where I need your feedback. So how often do you make and stick to a monthly budget? Now, I know what my answer is going to be if I was, talking to myself, or if I was talking to a prospect, it's probably going to be a different kind of question. But if I'm talking to a client and I'm asking, hey, what's your budget? And then they give me a number, I'm going to follow up with, how certain are you of that? And be like, well, I've never actually done the work. So what do you think is probably the response we should use here? I see sometimes, I see seldom. Anybody else? Frequently? Frequently, okay. Let's average it out and say sometimes. So do you have savings set aside just for emergencies? Well, they have a savings account, like we illustrated a moment ago. So I'm going to say that that's the emergency fund. So something happens to the car, they suddenly need to dip into the savings past the checking account balance. That's what that additional money was for. Are you maximizing employer contributions into retirement or health savings accounts? Well, you and I all know, because we're all very well versed in the 401k world, these individuals, because they're under the age of 50, can contribute to their retirement account $22,500 this year. Next year, it's going to go to $23,000 for the year 2024. So if they're contributing combined $500 a month or $6,000 a year, they're well underneath the cap. And I'm also going to make a brave assumption here that they're probably also not doing the maximum to a health account. So I'm going to answer this question for us as no. And just like that, savings section is complete. So your retirement savings of $200,000 is above the national average for your age, which is $119,000. So hey, Bo Peep and her spouse are actually doing pretty well. So you can see this progress bar up here at the top. Right now, if you can't see that, it says 46%. So we're almost halfway done. And we've been doing this for maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes at this point. Which of the following assets do you have? Well, most people are owning their home. So let's make the wild assumption that they're doing that. And most families are going to have some kind of vehicle. I'm going to skip these for right now, but if they do apply, so for example, you own your own business where there's equity in there. If you have personal property, so think like a boat, think like maybe it's a cabin in the woods, something like that. That would be like your other real estate. If you've got jet skis or other assets that you plan on selling, if you've got a memorabilia collection, a stamp collection, that might fall underneath the personal property section for you. And then it's going to ask you to put in the values for what you answered on the previous page. So let's assume that their current home value is, I don't know, $300,000. And if they were to sell both of their vehicles completely, let's assume it's $15,000 each because they both drive a vehicle to get to work, and so they're worth $30,000. So which of these debts or liabilities do you have? Just for simplicity's sake, we're going to say that they have a mortgage. Let's assume that they don't have an auto loan. Let's also assume that if they have credit cards, they're paying them off. No student loans, maybe from themselves, or maybe that is going to be a worry for them for their kids going forward, but we're not going to worry about that currently. Now, do you own your home or have a mortgage? Well, in this case, we have a mortgage. And let's assume that in terms of like the current home value, we have that as $300,000. Let's say this monthly mortgage payment, and if we highlight one of these question marks, it's going to clarify, hey, this should include not only the mortgage, but we also want to include all the other ancillary stuff that might come with it, like not just the principal and interest, but also your taxes associated with it and insurance. So if you've got an escrow account within your mortgage, you're looking for that top line number, what are you paying? And that's the number we're going to plug in here. So let's assume, it's somewhere around like $2,000 a month. Let's assume that they bought this house a little while ago. Maybe they've knocked out quite a lot of the mortgage payment. Let's say it's down to like $160,000. Mortgage rate, they refinanced years ago. They got a really good rate. Let's assume they got 3%. And they're going to make us fill this one out. Let's assume when they bought the house, it was a while back, it was only worth $200,000. It escalated because of COVID. It's now worth $300,000. So these are numbers, if you haven't surmised this, or these are numbers that are on your mortgage statement that you get every month. It's probably easily accessible to you on an app or on a website if you don't get a monthly statement any longer. I personally don't get those anymore. They're just online. So I would just log into my account to find that kind of stuff. Do you have any active credit cards? So this is the part where, again, depending on your situation and how you feel about credit cards, your answers may differ from others. Let's assume that these people do have a credit card and they use the credit card the best way possible, which is just the temporary use of them, pay them off every single month, and then enjoy the benefits, whether it's cash back, points, it's airline miles, whatever it is, whatever flavor they would like, but they're receiving some kind of benefit from using that credit card and paying off the balance every single month. And again, spending section is complete. We've already migrated all the way up to 78% complete. Your net worth of $380,000 is significantly ahead of half of your peers. So the median is 105. So this particular couple is doing incredibly well in many areas. So we'll see if that holds true as we continue on. Risk management. Okay, so this is where things get a little bit interesting, and I need your feedback here. Which of the following legal documents have you created and kept updated? I know there's at least one attorney on this call, so I'm kind of interested in what they're going to say about this. What kind of documents, if any, do we think this couple has? Considering they have each other, they have 2 kids, they're still in the house, they have a mortgage. Any documents that you think that they do have? And we can answer none. That's another option here.
None.
David says none. Anybody else? I'm admitting a few people while I'm waiting. He says none. Joe says none. Bob says most. Jody says a will. Okay. I'm actually going to skip this. It is unfortunately, very, very common that this is the section where people fail at. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. This is the area that is most common that is not on here, because you might think, this couple, why do they need estate planning documents? They're doing okay, but they don't have millions of dollars in wealth. But one of the challenges is that, well, they should probably have something. So let's skip it for right now, and let's see how that reflects at the very end. Which of the following insurance coverages do you have? Well, like we talked about, this couple has a house, they have cars. So we know that they at least have that. So they have homeowners insurance, and they have auto insurance. It's also very likely, considering they have kids and they both work, they would have health insurance, they would likely have dental, and they would have, I think we're gonna stop there. Now, there's all these other varieties of insurance mentioned down here. So for example, umbrella insurance, fairly cost-effective insurance on your property. So somebody comes onto your property, twists their ankle or breaks it, walking up your sidewalk or something like that, they sue you. That is the additional insurance that would cover, hopefully, an incident like that, as they are blaming you as the property owner for their broken ankle. You might have term life insurance. So you might have a $2 million 20-year policy where if you pass within those 20 years, you're going to get $2 million, or, well, not you, obviously, you pass in this situation, but your loved ones would get $2 million. Disability insurance, very common, not from the individual, me going out and finding somebody to pay, or for me to pay for disability insurance, but rather to have some kind of option, maybe through your health, your benefits at work. So if you're not familiar with that, or if you're not, you haven't looked into that, that might have been a subject actually during your open enrollment if you've had one of those periods recently. For right now, I'm going to skip these. Again, this is mostly just for the reporting of saying, hey, we're doing some of this work, but this couple isn't perfect. They don't have everything. I'm not checking all the boxes, so to speak. So if we move on, the risk section is now complete. So up to 64% of households your age do not have estate plans, and an estimated 90% of households are underinsured. So I wonder where that's going to lead us in a moment. How do you feel about your health? So in this regard, they're basically trying to figure out life expectancy. This is kind of the morbid part of the conversation, which is just saying, hey, how likely are we going to last until 100 years old? What's the likelihood that we spend a good chunk of our retirement enjoying it and not, worried about our health? So on a scale of 1 to 5, so 1 is going to be very unhealthy, 5 is going to be very healthy. Where do you see this couple? Do we think they're, really out of shape? Maybe pre-existing conditions, that'd be more along like a 1 or a 2, or do we think they're really healthy? 5, 3, somewhat healthy, 2. Couple somewhats in there. Okay, so I'm gonna, I hate to do this, I'm sorry everybody. We're gonna put them right in the middle then, because we have a variety of answers here. So let's assume this. At what age would you like to retire? So again, in the chat, what age would this couple like to retire at? We're going to be cliche and say 65? No, we don't have to. Keith says 62, 65, 65. Come on, Kim, you're more original than that. 67. Okay, let's do early. Let's do the 62. I like that answer. 52. Oh, okay, there we go, Kim. We're being bold now. I don't think this couple's going to make it in 4 years. I don't want to test that one. Let's do 62. Just say, hey, maybe they want to get it at the very first year that they're eligible for their Social Security checks, let's say. What kind of lifestyle do you want to have when you retire? Simple, minimal lifestyle, about the same, or a more expensive? So let's just do a scale of 1 to 3. 1 is going to be minimal. 3 is going to be expensive. 2 is in the middle. So what do we think? 1, 2, or 3? 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3. 2s are winning. Sold. 2, about the same as now. All right, there you go. Congratulations, your survey is complete. So if you've ever done a program like TurboTax, this is kind of this gamification of putting in your information. It's trying to make it as interesting as possible. Here's the dashboard. So you've done the hard work. And now, of course, those numbers are going to change, right? Because as soon as you do this, Your spouse is going to say, oh, did you think about this? And you're like, ah, dang it, I didn't put that in there. It's fine. You can just go into the plan. You can go ahead and modify those numbers. It's all within this online platform. So your onboard checklist, you've already filled out the survey. Now, you could verify your email, you could review the plan, et cetera, and so forth. You could check off these boxes as you've gone through the steps. By going through it, you're basically just making sure, hey, do I have all my information in one place? This is a good repository of information as well. This is probably not the intended use for Savology, but I'll mention it. This is not a bad place to put information about you. So if something was to happen to you, this is a website that people can visit, like your loved ones, like your spouse or your kids, that can look at this kind of stuff and say, hey, my father passed away, and it says that he has a will somewhere, but I don't know where the will is. We need to do some hunting. Or, hey, he did mention he's got traditional and Roth IRA dollars, but I don't have account statements for those. We need to hunt those down. We need to figure out where those are at. So again, just kind of a nice way to say, hey, if I've got all these onboarding things done, it's again a place to find information. Now, tracking progress, you're going to see all these types of things come up here, and again, these are all on the side over on the left if you want to explore. This is where Savology, I think, is key, and what they do the best for folks that are DIYers trying to get an idea for their financial plan. So what it's going to do is it's going to say, all right, you have all this information in the system. Here are the action items. Here are the top things that you need to complete, and this will refresh. So every time you complete something, it doesn't mean the journey is done. It's just going to continue to challenge you to do the next thing. So for this particular couple, you can see their top 3 things are mentioned here. So number 1 is nominate successor guardians. Remember the estate plan? Remember the estate plan that they don't have? Remember the fact that we said they don't have a will? They've got nothing. So you probably don't want the courts to decide who gets your 2 kids if something happens to you. So they drill right to the bone. They want you to do something with this. They want you to say, hey, I need to contact somebody to help me do this. I need to contact a local attorney. I need to find an attorney. I want to find an online resource that can help me draw up a document, whatever it might be that you're interested in. But that's going to be their number 1 thing. The next thing is that, hey, you said that you don't have any life insurance, so you need to get policies. You might have a gap. They're going to suggest even a dollar amount for that. Now, whether or not that dollar amount is absolutely correct, you might have forgotten, oh, I've got term insurance through my job. They gift me $50,000. Or, I do a supplemental through my job for $300,000, whatever it is. We have to play with this a little bit. But you can get into more details to kind of see where they're coming from. And they even have little modules. So they've got articles in here. They've got videos for you to watch. So if you're saying, why are they recommending this thing? You'll get more background on why they're suggesting you to do this. And again, if you need to update it, you can do that. Conveniently, at the bottom of most of these pages, there's our website. So if you're forgetting, oh, who do I need to contact for this? I think this leads back, if you click on contact your advisor, to John Biedenstein, one of our 401k advisors, but any one of us can help you here. The interesting thing that I wanted to leave you with on this is that this is the report card. So we're going to take a look at Bo Peep's report card. So Bo, going through this, has an overall grade of C+. Okay, so if you think about if any of you are not recently in school, C+ is fine. It's an 80 out of 100 on their scale. So for many people, living a C+ life is pretty good, and that's okay. But I know we're all A students here. So how do we achieve an A? How do we get closer to the 100? Well, we can look and we can say, hey, those action items that I was brought to a moment ago, those top 3, like the will, like the insurance, those types of things, all come from the scores, or the grades in this case, that you're achieving down here. So for instance, like their debt management, they're doing excellent at it. They're doing a really good job. The only thing that's a little bit high is the debt to income. So how much debt do I have relative to the money that I make? That's a B, but everything else gets an A, okay? Now, if they were to add on additional debt, say they forget a credit card payment, something like that, well, score is going to go down. They're going to go from an A- to a B+ to a B, etc. Income, they're calling that an A-. Why? Well, it's because the income is above a certain percentile in your age bracket. Housing, A-. Emergency fund, B-. Well, what do they want? Well, they know that you have liquid assets of 10,000, but we probably need to increase this. And again, the action items will challenge them. If we go all the way to the bottom, again, there's that F. I already knew it was going to be an F. But the F is just because, hey, you don't have successor beneficiaries listed. You don't have an estate document, period, to your name. That's why we're scoring an F here. the D plus in savings. Hey, well, if they, like Kim was trying to do, if they were trying to get retired at 52, they've got a lot of work to do here. They're currently only saving 5% per month. We need to increase the savings to be able to increase this grade into the C's, and then et cetera and so forth. So I won't go through all these, but this particular program, again, because we're short on time, is available on our website. So again, if you visit correctcap.com, there's a button over here. Right now it says free planning. It might say free financial planning, powered by Savology, or something similar to that in the near future. You'll see this button change, but this button right here is there. You will then have this link to Savology. But the other things we haven't talked about, and thanks, Jeff. Thanks for attending. You've got different kinds of modules you can look at, different kinds of literacy opportunities over here. These videos are not of Colin. These are from Savology. So if you do this and you're thinking, I need more direct assistance in understanding why I'm scoring so poorly in one area, or hey, I've got straight A's, Colin. What can you what can you show me that this program doesn't even say? We could definitely be challenged in that regard, and we could talk to you about it. But there's lots of good stuff in here that I think are really valuable. Again, if you're forgetting who we are, you can click on My Advisor and it will bring you over to an advisor on our team. Our firm number and information is down here. But once you have this information in there, you can update it as needed. You can look at different things on the website and again, continue to be challenged. Someone like myself, who's a financial advisor, I did not score straight A's my first time when I went through this. It challenged me to say, hey, you need to improve upon things. I went in a few months later, made some updates, scored a little bit better. But then I got an email that says, hey, have you thought about doing this? You know, your grade was still a little bit low over here. How are we going to improve that? Your net worth is here. We want it to be up here. This is your next challenge point. So all these are just different ways of solving the problem for financial planning and making sure that you're best prepared for whatever it is that you're attempting to do. So if you're in a situation where you're thinking, maybe I want to keep Correct Capital on arm's length, I'm not ready to engage with them yet, or maybe I don't ever want to talk to them, I just want to watch this video, and that's fine. This is a tool that will at least help you. The reason we suggest doing this over your financial planning that you have on your website through your 401k provider, Fidelity, Principal, Econ Benefits, Kuna Mutual, whoever it might be. The reason we like this one is because the problem that they're trying to solve on those softwares is the retirement problem. But what I showed you when we looked at that report card a moment ago is that that's just one of many things, right? You know, saving enough or just having a retirement at C+, well, you could have gotten that from your Empower website, again, your Fidelity website, whatever it might be, your Voya website. But we want to solve for everything else. That's really what we need to figure out is how we're doing, because you could be eating beans and rice every night and maxing out your 401k, but is that really what you want to be doing? Is that really the kind of life that you want to lead? Can we figure out a more balanced way to address how we're handling our finances going forward? So I hope that this was helpful. Again, correctcap.com. Feel free to take a look there. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, either via the chat or if you want to unmute yourself for a couple of minutes, I'll be around. I know we're a little bit over on time, so I do appreciate you all hanging on out there. So if you do need to jump off, again, thank you. Reach out to me. Again, I'm Colin Day, and I will be sending out the link to the recording of this email as soon as I have it, probably within the next week or so. Okay? If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Thank you. You're welcome, Bob. You're welcome, Joe. All right, and you're welcome, Kim. Okay, I don't hear any questions, so I'm going to go going once, going twice. All right, I think we're good. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. See ya.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. As always, please remember, investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Please seek advice from a licensed professional. Correct Capital Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor. advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Correct Capital Wealth Management and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advice may be rendered by Correct Capital Wealth Management unless a client service agreement is in place.